your strength.
Sauron Marvel Origin Explored. Hello and welcome to another marvelous video. The universe of Marvel is filled with fascinating superheroes and fantastic supervillains. Today we will take a look at one of the most exciting supervillains in the world of Hulk and X-Men, Sauron. The character was created by writer Roy Thomas and artist Neil Adams and first appeared in 1969 in the X-Men number 59. Sauron is the alter ego of Dr. Carl Lykos, a physician. Lykos was changed into an energy vampire after being bitten by mutant pterodactyls, able to suck the life power of people by contact. Lykos evolves into a humanoid Pteranodon after absorbing the life power of mutants, gaining improved strength and speed in the process. However, Sauron gains control over Lykos as a result of this. Sauron has frequently been shown as inhabiting the deep, primeval jungle of the Savage Land and as an enemy of the X-Men throughout his existence. Superpowers and dinosaurs are two of our favorite topics of all time, and if you share even part of our interest, then trust us when we say that you are in for an enjoyable ride. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a whole lot. So thank you, and let's begin. Dr. Carl Lykos, aka Sauron's tragic origin. Lykos made his first appearance in issue 59 of the X-Men, but he was there in the closing strip as a cliffhanger for the next issue. In issue 60, titled In the Shadows of Sauron, his character was properly introduced. Havoc of the X-Men, unable to contain the full scale of his superpower, unleashed his full might after a confrontation between the mutant team and the mechanical sentinels. He was nearly killed when he was buried in debris by the explosion. The X-Men hurried him to Dr. Lykos in his Manhattan office, who they believed to be the only doctor they can trust given that Havoc was a mutant, since they were aware of the relationship between Xavier and Lykos. Lykos first spoke with geneticist Professor Charles Xavier when he was still a medical student. Together they worked on Project Mutant, a covert undertaking. It is still unknown exactly what this project was, why it was kept a secret, what outcomes it may have produced, and who, if anybody other than Xavier, had ordered it. Xavier was aware of Lykos' desire and propensity for absorbing other people's life force into himself, but he kept this information from his proteges, the X-Men. In this comic book, Lykos' origin story was also shown. When he was just a small lad, Carl Lykos accompanied his father on an excursion to Tierra del Fuego near the Antarctic Circle. They were traveling with a doctor named Dr. Anderson and his daughter Tanya, who was about Carl's age. At some point during the journey, Tanya got lost and Carl later discovered her being attacked by enormous Pteranodons, a type of flying reptile from the dinosaur era, in a cave. In reality, these Pteranodons originated in the Savage Land, a tropical Antarctica area, home to extinct animals. The Pteranodons apparently migrated to Tierra del Fuego via underground natural tunnels. Carl used his walking stick to chase the beasts away, but not before being badly bit. Tanya and Carl were traumatized by their encounter and had no recollection of the Pteranodons. Dr. Anderson utilized his medical expertise to save Carl's life. He welcomed Carl to live with him and Tanya out of gratitude for Carl's role in saving Tanya's life when his father passed away. The Pteranodon bites affected Carl for reasons that have never been clarified, possibly changing his genetic makeup. Carl learned that in order to exist, he had to steal life energy from other organisms. His dog Jaeger was an unintended first victim. He snapped all of his vitality by merely touching him. Even after being compelled to the use of other people's energy, Carl continued to hide his condition, but he didn't kill any of them. All he did was momentarily weaken them. Carl developed feelings for Tanya as he got older, but the strict Dr. Anderson forbade them from getting married because of Carl's lack of financial stability. Carl Lykos then went to medical school to become affluent, so then he could wed Tanya. Lykos went on to become a hypnotherapist, but as he grew older, he needed more life force, and as a result, he created tools that allowed him to absorb the life forces from his patients. In the next issue, titled On the Wings of Death, Lykos attended to Havoc's wounds before using his tool to drain his life force. However, Lykos had never previously sucked energy from a superhuman mutant, and as a result, he had never before felt the effects. He was transformed by the power into a half-human, half-Pteranodon monster with human intelligence and speech abilities. But Lykos' personality was twisted by the transition, making him evil. As a result, Lykos adopted the moniker Sauron in honor of the Lord of the Rings archenemy. When Havoc woke up, Sauron was engaged in a battle with the X-Men but retreated, forcing him to start returning to his human form. Soon after, Dr. Anderson continued to deny Lykos' request to be married to his daughter, and they got into a fight. Later, the mutant Lorna Dane, who eventually came to be known as Polaris, had her energy drained by Lykos, who had undergone a second Sauron transformation. Sauron flew to the Andersons' house to murder them after that. Just before the X-Men arrived, Anderson recognized Sauron's voice as that of Lykos, and Sauron departed. After using up all of the mutant energy that he had collected, Sauron flew to his father's cottage in Tierra del Fuego, before reverting to his human form. Lykos chose to starve himself to death after feeling horrified at having attempted to kill Tanya. But a few days later, Tanya showed up there, shortly followed by the X-Men. Lykos resisted the impulse to consume Tanya's life force and instead escaped, falling over a cliff in the process. Tanya and the X-Men unsuccessfully looked for Lykos and concluded that he had probably perished.
No kidding!
Hear me, Fin Fang Foom, and obey!
Sauron in Savage Land. It was later revealed Lykos managed to live and found a path to the Savage Land by traveling via tunnels. He was able to maintain his human form there up to the point where he had to save an unconscious Iceman from ravenous pterodactyls. Iceman, in his present state, was unable to identify Lykos until it was too late. Lykos reverted to Sauron and helped the X-Men and the jungle ruler Khazar defeat Magneto and his mutates once more. After the conflict, Lykos transformed back to human, joining Khazar as an ally. Later, Lykos once more assumed the identity of Sauron and joined forces with the Savage Land mutates to battle Khazar, the Angel, and Spider-Man. Sauron made several attempts to take control of the Savage Land and use its inhabitants as a source of food, but he was continually thwarted. The Beast, an X-Men member, was able to cure Karl's hunger after one of the team's defeats. With the threat posed by Sauron presumably eliminated, Karl resumed his everyday life with Tanya, whom he eventually married. Years later, the mutant known as the Toad met Lykos, intending to enlist Sauron into his most recent iteration of the terrorist brotherhood of evil mutants. Lykos was forced to drain Tanya's life power by the Toad using a gadget of his own invention, which turned Lykos back into Sauron and killed Tanya in the process. In an effort to kill off Farrell as a favorite for the Morlock known as Thorn, Sauron joined the Toad's brotherhood. Cannonball was targeted by Sauron during the conflict and appeared to be dead, but he was instead beaten by the mutant Square X Force, forcing him to submit. He regained health by siphoning life force from various targets and later appeared to aid Toad in his efforts to enlist expatriates in the Brotherhood. Since X Factor vanquished Sauron and the rest of the Brotherhood, they were unable to enroll the expatriates. Sauron boasted of murdering Cannonball during the conflict. In order to surprise the X-Men, Sauron and the Brotherhood kidnapped and brainwashed a teleporting mutant, but when Darkhawk and Sleepwalker attacked them, they decided to flee the fray. Wolverine, Rogue, and Jubilee of the X-Men thwarted Sauron's subsequent attempt to seize control of the Savage Land. In an effort to harness Havoc's energies to sate his desire, he ordered the Savage Land mutants to capture him. The Summers brothers were put into an energy transfer device by Sauron when his friends Cyclops, Phoenix, and Polaris came to their aid. The combination of energies further altered Sauron, making him bigger and stronger than before. Phoenix attempted to battle Sauron in the astral plane, but Lykos' personality won because he was made a suicide jump into the depths of his psyche and took his loathed alter ego with him. Sauron's intellect seemed to be locked in a feral condition as a result. After yet another contact with Khazar, Sauron's suppressed human intelligence gradually came back to him and worked out a strategy to get abroad, a journey Khazar was arranging to New York City. When Sauron arrived in America, he went in search of the X-Men, but once more was thwarted. Wolverine then turned him over to the Secret Service S.H.I.E.L.D. Sauron ended up in custody of the new Weapon X program. Somehow Sauron managed to land up at the new Weapon X program, which was overseen by the enigmatic director who sought to harness the program's mutants for the good of humanity, even if it meant executing lethal missions and detaining mutant prisoners. Sauron was subjected to experiments in the program, becoming less clever, more prone to furious rages, and unable to employ his hypnotic abilities. Sauron's first mission was to acquire mutants for the Weapon X program, and he was successful in capturing the mutant Jack. Sauron worked in the program for many months before escaping to hunt victims, preying on the innocent to fulfill his appetite for the life energy of others. Brent Jackson, an agent, spotted him while looking for a gang to launch a coup to replace the director. Sauron consented, and Jackson's comrades joined the underground squad, led by the mutant soldier of fortune, Cable, who sought to bring the Weapon X program to an end. The underground infiltrated the Weapon X compound, deposing the director and nearly ruining the program. Before the ultimate defeat, however, Agent Jackson betrayed the underground, using Cable's telepathic abilities against his comrades. Jackson kidnapped the underground members and erased whatever they had seen or learned about the operation from their memory. Jackson was designated the new director of the Weapon X program by its mystery sponsors after taking credit for salvaging the program. Sauron continued to work for Brent Jackson's Weapon X program. When Lykos was detained at the raft for refusing to take part in any more Weapon X missions, he managed to escape with the aid of Electro during a Skrull-planned breakout. He was hunted by the new Avengers into the Savage Land. The second Black Widow shot him in the head after he turned into Sauron. Fortunately for Sauron, his wound healed as he had ingested Wolverine's regenerative healing factor. Before returning to jail, he burned Black Widow with his hot breath as a thank you for the favor. When Sauron was taken into custody by S.H.I.E.L.D., Mariah Hill intended to deliver him back to Weapon X. Later, Sauron was saved by Cade Kilgore, who then accepted him into the Hellfire Academy. He took part in the recruitments of Mud Dog and Glob Herman, while the X-Men's pupils were in the Savage Land on a field trip. The first class was convened and Sauron presided as the evil science instructor of the academy. Later he made another appearance, this time alongside Stegron in the New York Museum of Natural History, where he squared off against Spider-Man in the mutant subclass, over which he was in control, and he won. Stegron's assistance allowed Sauron to turn Staten Island into his newest colony and its residents into dinosaurs. While his partner took care of their adversaries, Sauron confessed his love to Shark Girl and attempted to kiss her, but was stopped by an incensed Stegron, who was upset by how Sauron treated him. Shark Girl enticed Stegron to reverse his Dino Ray machine to convert Staten Island's residents back to their normal forms. At the same time, Sauron approached Spider-Man and his people after turning Glob into a dinosaur for attempting to flee. The dinosaur couple engaged in combat as a result of their powers canceling each other out. Both were petrified.
You are in my thrall, Savage.
Mind-blowing story of Sauron and Hulk and the Agents of S.M.A.S.H. The origin story of Sauron in the animated series Hulk and the Agents of S.M.A.S.H. was shown in the 6th episode titled Savage Island. The origin story was kept more or less the same. The Tierra del Fuego and the pterodactyl incident happened, but Tanya's story was not established in this version. Carl graduated from medical school and worked as a doctor, geneticist, and hypnotist. He hypnotized people to treat them while also stealthily draining their vitality. After absorbing mutant energy, he became vampiric, pterodactyl-like creature with human intelligence and extraordinary hypnotic abilities. In honor of J.R.R. Tolkien's villain, he gave himself the moniker Sauron. He escaped mankind and went to the Savage Land. When the Agents of S.M.A.S.H. arrive at the Savage Land, Sauron commands an army of Pteranodons equipped with laser mounts to attack their jump set. During the battle, Sauron manages to knock A-Bomb off the jump set by stealing the energy from one of the Pteranodons. She-Hulk, Scar, and Sauron use a special drill in the supervolcano to locate Sauron's lizardmen friends, while Devil Dinosaur, who is under Sauron's influence, attacks A-Bomb and Red Hulk. When Sauron learns of the situation at the giant volcano, he orders Devil Dinosaur to complete the task. As Devil Dinosaur made friends with A-Bomb after escaping Sauron's mental control, he regurgitated A-Bomb. According to Sauron, who claims that he and his dinosaur friends avoided an annihilation, man's reign on Earth will end. Devil Dinosaur assists in battling Sauron's army and destroying the drill. Scar and She-Hulk's powers are sapped as Sauron confronts Scar in combat while attempting to mind control him. The Hulk, Red Hulk, A-Bomb, and Devil Dinosaur arrive together, and Hulk engages Sauron as the others try to halt the drill. Sauron then makes an unsuccessful attempt to drain the Hulk's energies. A feeble Sauron escapes from the Pteranodons after the drill is destroyed. The agents of S.M.A.S.H bring back the Devil Dinosaur as their pet. Sauron next makes an appearance in the episode titled Mission Impossible Man. In the episode, Sauron's army of ancient sea monsters attacks a coastal amusement park. Ultimately, he engages in combat with Impossible Man and the agents of S.M.A.S.H. As soon as Sauron is effectively captured by Impossible Man, he absorbs his abilities and attacks the Hulk with them. As Sauron is punched by the two-headed compound Hulk created by Impossible Man by fusing Hulk and Red Hulk, he grows 3 additional heads. Yikes. Even though Sauron couldn't control this particular reptile, he still recruited Fin Fang Foom for assistance. When Sauron sought to absorb Fin Fang Foom's powers after the Impossible Man's powers had worn off, he was sent out to sea. Sauron's next big appearance was in the episode titled Days of the Future S.M.A.S.H Part 1, the Dino Era as King Sauron. The historical period where dinosaurs ruled was created by the leader, one of the major arch-nemeses of the Hulk, and King Sauron served as its king. General Thunder Lizard Rossasaurus and Ankylosaurus aids him in his plan to wipe out prehistoric humans. King Sauron was overthrown by the agents of S.M.A.S.H with the aid of El Diablo and Spider Raptor. He ultimately fell into a pit of enormous spiders after they rescued the primitive people. The timeline that included dinosaurs predominated the next one when Hulk foiled leaders' ambitions in the Mesozoic Age. In the Season 2 episode Days of Future S.M.A.S.H Part 5, the Tomorrow Smashers, where the leader used the time belt to summon 4 paradox monsters from the alternate timelines he had created, this character made his final appearance as a frost giant Sauron. The others were Red Skullosaurus, a Gamma Raptor, and a vampire devil dinosaur. The agents of S.M.A.S.H were transported back to their respective timelines when the leader defeated them. What makes Sauron so deadly? Carl Lykos is a competent medical practitioner, geneticist, and hypnotist who appears in human form as a typical human being. He has medical degrees in genetics and psychology, respectively. Lykos was altered when mutant Pteranodons infected him with a genetic virus, giving him the capacity to absorb the life energies of other living things. After consuming normal humans and animals, Lykos found that when he absorbs the energy of mutants, he changes into Sauron. Later, he developed the ability to consume a mutant's life energy to briefly absorb some of the mutant's abilities, making him comparable to Rogue from X-Men. If he did not routinely take the life power from mutants, he would revert to his human form. Some representations of Sauron included the transformations of other superhuman people and mutant life forces. Sauron used his bite to impart his life absorption abilities to others in Spider-Man and the X-Men. He offered Sharkgirl this power, which he had given to Stegron. Lykos has honed his abilities to the point that he can collect mutant energy to cause his metamorphosis into Sauron without coming into touch with mutants by the time he faces the Scarlet Spider. The Sauron form of Lykos resembles a gigantic crested Pteranodon, which is extinct everywhere except the Savage Land. In contrast to real Pteranodons, Sauron has a toothed beak, orange eyes, a generally humanoid form, and legs that are as long as a person's. With a 12-foot wingspan and razor-sharp claws on his hands and feet, he possesses superhuman strength, speed, intellect, stamina, durability, and the ability to fly. Additionally, Lykos possesses a potent hypnotic skill that demands direct eye contact to accomplish. He frequently used his hypnotic ability to induce horrific beliefs in his victims that their comrades had turned into monsters. Although his control is imperfect because many have shown to resist his directives, he may also mentally enslave individuals to do his bidding. Sauron can also fire bursts of concussive life force energy from his hands. Thanks to the Weapon X program's manipulation, he gains the power to breathe fire at some time before the new Avengers appearances, which he uses to burn the second Black Widow as retaliation for shooting him in the head. Marvelous appearance of Sauron in form of media. Apart from Hulk and the Agents of S.M.A.S.H, Sauron actually made his animated series debut way back in the 1990s in the X-Men animated series. Robert Boxtel provided the voice of Sauron in the two-part X-Men animated series episode Savage Land, Savage Heart. This Sauron does not have the fire breath or the sonic scream of his comic book counterpart and lives in the Savage Land. In addition, Lykos, a subject of Mr. Sinister's experiments, was made to consume energy and upon coming into touch with a mutant, changed into Sauron. Later, Sauron makes an unsuccessful attempt to take control of the Savage Land for himself after helping Mr. Sinister kill the X-Men. Lykos is permitted to dwell in peace and is welcomed into Karzar's tribe because there are no longer any mutants in the Savage Land. Apart from this, Sauron has made multiple appearances in many video games over the years.
No more! Farewell!
Marvelous verdict. Sauron is one of the most iconic superheroes from the golden era of comics. Primarily appearing as a villain for X-Men, he eventually shared space with Marvel's stalwarts like Hulk and Spider-Man. His character was rather gimmicky and was more time appropriate for the 1960s. Jubilee from X-Men even compared Rodan, a flying reptile monster that has starred in Toho studio movies of Japan since 1956, to Sauron. Undeniably, he is an iconic character and an excellent source of nostalgia, and for sure core comic fans will smile whenever and wherever he pops up in the future. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. In the meantime, have a good one and be safe. Thank you, everybody.